what do you call it? An art of craftsmanship, really. I think baking is, of course, you think of it as in cooking, but I think baking is, and taste is just as important as the look, but to me the baking is sort of the basic side of it, and the sugar work is what makes it beautiful and desirable.
Yeah, because I can imagine that some people who love to do crafts, they also buy the book because they just want to exercise with the flowers.
I think with the book you can actually easily go ahead and just do sugar work, sugar craft. In England, for example, there are a lot of people who either do just flowers or just baking, so you can separate the two. But you know, I've always loved the two together. To me, there's nothing more beautiful in decoration for cake than sugar flowers. I think they go perfectly together, and that's why I've given a range of basic recipes for the book as well.
Yeah. This is a very high-end book, as you call it in publishing. This is the first book you have published in this way, because you have published books before, but this is really exceptional.
Yes, the thing is that sugar craft and sugar flowers is still a niche market and something very specialized in the world, and an awful lot of time and effort went into actually developing it, and I knew it wouldn't be a book for the mass market. It's something for people who really love the beauty of sugar flowers, and I just wanted the design to reflect this. And I think it's a book that you hopefully will look at for many years to come, and you maybe proudly put it on your coffee table as well, and not just in your kitchen shelf.
Yeah. You have published other books, books.
Yeah.
Where are they about?
I started publishing books about cake decorating, so there was always a combination of baking cupcakes, cookies, and large cakes, and decorating. And then in 2011 I published Boutique Baking, which was my first book mainly focused on baking. And it contains all the recipes of the cakes that I serve in the parlor, my first cake shop. And since I publish a bit of a combination of the two, I do baking books and then I also do decorating books. So the two have split a little bit.
And some of the other books are also available on the Dutch market. You just can find them on the internet and sometimes also in the bookshops. What is your fascination for flowers? Where does it come from?
My mother and grandmother both used to be florists, and I've always grown up with flowers around me. My dad, who is actually in his work life a very sort of hardcore businessman, in his leisure time, he does floral arrangements for some reason. And flowers have always been around me, and working in the wedding industry in particular, I always see so many beautiful flowers, and again, the wedding cake, to tie the wedding cake in with the actual wedding, sugar flowers are the perfect decoration.
Yeah, and you said it is a niche, but is there now a trend going on, sugar works and flower decoration on cakes?
I think so. I mean, the English or British style of sugar craft has been around for probably, I don't know how long, but probably about 100 years or longer. And it's been probably until 10-15 years ago slightly more old-fashioned. And now I think there's a much younger generation of new cake decorators who bring this sort of into the next, or have brought it into the next century. And I guess my way of flower making is slightly more commercial and stylized. I do take inspiration from the real flower, but then I also I want it to be pretty for the cake, and also in a way, in terms of technique, it has to be slightly more commercial so that you can actually earn money with it as well.
Yeah. Of course we want to know where all this came from, so I want to go back to your youth. You were from Germany originally, you were born in Düren.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about your youth? And your mother and your grandmother were florists, so you have been grown up amongst the flowers. But when did it all start, this baking and cooking?
Well, my love for cake started really young. I remember I actually have a picture of when I was 1 year old and I was sitting next to my first birthday cake, which my parents would order from the local bakery. And traditionally in Germany these cakes are decorated with marzipan and sugar animals. And I just always remember the smell of the marzipan and the flavor of the buttercream. And back then it just sort of mesmerized me, and it was something I always looked forward to. And when I was 14 years old, I made my first cake, a decorated cake. And I think that I never felt until then that I was really good at something, but when I made this cake, I had a lot of fun making it, and the feedback was so positive that it just made me want to do more. And I think it probably happens to a lot of people that I speak to who start decorating. They have a similar experience. It's just something that grabs you, and you suddenly discover this passion. And I don't know if some of you might agree with me. I think we cake people, we're sometimes a little bit crazy. We get a bit too obsessed and do nothing else other than just cakes. And I think if you're not in the cake world and you just look at cake people, you'd think, oh yeah, they're a little bit crazy and a little bit...
Are there cake people here? Yes, you know that.
Would you agree? Or?
Yeah, would you agree with her? A little bit crazy, all about cakes?
Bad bakers, so.
But when you were 14, all these utensils, they were not there in Germany.
Not in Germany, and actually, for example, yesterday we met with Susanne, with an old school sugar flour maker. I think when she started, a lot of cutters weren't available, so people would cut it out by hand using a knife or scissors. And I think today we're very lucky that cutters are available. It makes it much more efficient and commercial to make flours, and the variety is much bigger.
And when did you thought I want to make a profession of this? Because every girl loves to make, to bake a cake.
Yeah. Well, probably when I was a teenager, I knew I wanted to do something with cakes, but I always wanted to be more a cake designer rather than a conditor or a confectioner. So the traditional German apprenticeship didn't really appeal to me, and my family also were hoping that I would maybe do something like go to university and just, you know, have a better life and so on. And but I just wanted to bake and make cakes. And after my A-levels, I still wanted to make cakes, but didn't know quite how. So I worked for 2 years as an air hostess for Lufthansa. And I kept traveling, I kept looking around in other countries what was going on. And I discovered that London and New York were the two places that I figured out there's a cake scene, and there are actually training courses. So I decided then to move to London and do a basic patisserie training, and then specialize in sugar craft. And my plan was to go back home and start a cafe or something, but one thing led to another, and it was never the right time to leave. And I was lucky at the time that I worked for a catering company who do a lot of celebrity jobs. And they asked me to create an edible Fabergé egg for an Elton John event, and that was my first celebrity job. And after that, it just sort of happened, and it developed from there.
And when did you start for your own shop?
Well, it was actually, I didn't want to start my own business so early. I never felt I was ready. But there weren't any jobs as cake decorators, so I had to do it by myself, really. And the first 2 years I was just working on recommendation. I didn't advertise. It was just customers recommending me to other friends and so on. And then I was sort of discovered by my English publisher at a Christmas fair where I was selling cookies, and they then asked me if I wanted to write a cake book. And I was a bit overwhelmed, super excited, but I just thought, oh my god, I have nothing to show for, how can I already write a book? So I decided to take some time out and just work on new designs. I did that for about 6 months, and then I released Pretty Party Cakes. And I think it was at the time very modern and young, very colorful. And I think from then onwards it sort of helped sparking the new generation, the new trend to create something more modern in cakes.
Because your first book was published in 2005? Yeah. So you're working now for 10 years already. Yeah. Your books have been translated all over the world, in Germany, in the Netherlands, in France.
Not France, Russia, Turkey, and Italy, Spain. Yeah.
But I really think you're one of the first person who really made a profession, and you have a shop, and you have an academy, we'll talk about it later, and you have your books. So you're really the first one.
I think the books were, I think probably you could say my first celebrity job and the first book were my groundbreaking milestones. I think they then helped to propel everything else from then on. But it was also a bit scary because when my first book came out, I wrote the book, but I didn't really have a big business. So I had really good press coverage for it, and people started calling up for orders. And then it got so busy I could not get back to everybody who emailed, and then people got a bit upset with me and said, well, why do you advertise everywhere if you can't be honest? I said, well, I'm not advertising, I'm just lucky that people write about the book. And so it was the first 2 to 4 years were very stressful, and as much as they were exciting and very amazing, I was very lucky, it also made me really put myself under a lot of pressure. So it's very difficult then when you want to be creative and innovative and suddenly you have to deal with this pressure of people wanting something from you all the time. And not always something what your customers want is something that you actually like doing, So it's very difficult to find the balance between being creative or trying to be an artist and actually trying to earn money with it at the same time.
And how did you solve that problem?
Just by working. Always moving forward, always learning from mistakes, and also my husband, who was a chef at the time, he developed an allergy against shellfish, so I needed help, and he said, okay, I'll help you for a bit, I can't do my job anymore at the moment. And so he started, he calls himself a delivery boy. And now he is managing director. He works on the financial side of things when it comes to staffing, everything that needs organizing. He's sort of my rock. It really has helped me.
Have you been an inspiration for a lot of women in the world with your career?
I think so, yes. I get a lot of people who email me and say, I want to do something similar. Can I pick your brain? Can I get your advice?
Yes.
It's difficult for me to, of course, speak to everybody, and at the same time I have to obviously bear in mind, I have to protect my own business as well. But one thing that I have learned, when I started, I wish there would have been a training course for this, because I had to go via a lot of side routes to get to the final goal or destination. So at the academy I developed first cake decorating courses, and then I developed a course for people who want to do this as a business. So we offer now a 5 to 6 week program where you can start with the basics of baking and then decorating, sugar, flowers, designing. And then at the end you do a business module where you learn about the inside of the industry, wedding industry, you learn about dealing with party planners, consultations with brides, how to cost a cake, all the other logistics you need to think of when you start a food business from home as well, PR marketing, those kind of things.
So you have a lot of successes already?
Yeah, actually, there's a lot. I mean, I actually have probably created a lot of competition to myself in England. But one thing I also have learned in the first few years, I always got a little bit bitter and upset when I felt people were trying to copy me. But then you just need to see this as a compliment and turn it into something. I think everything that makes you feel like it's a setback or disappointment, you need to turn into an opportunity for yourself. And the academy is something that I never planned to do. It just happened because of a demand. And it's proven to be a more successful part of the business now. And I've decided to, the creative side, the wedding cakes, to keep it small and exclusive to myself because it needs my personal touch and my personal inspiration. But on the business side, to build up the academy further and the shop where customers can enjoy cakes every day.
Yeah, there are a lot of cooks in the UK who have Jamie Oliver, for example. He also wrote his book and he had his school and
he's got a massive.
It's on the link and his magazine and his television program. Is that also your ambition to grow in the next few years?
We do want to grow, but if not maybe to the scale of Jamie Oliver. It's a little bit scary, and I think he actually also openly says he's made a lot of mistakes. I think he was at some stage almost broke on it all. But we have actually grown quite fast in the last 4 years. And at the moment I just want to keep an eye on sort of perfecting the things that I have. And we have some plans for potentially international expansion through the academy and the shop. So that's still in the early stages. But the weddings is something I feel I have to keep to myself.
Yes, yeah. With inspiration I also meant, when I saw your book, and I read about your career, I thought about the book Chocolat.
Yeah.
Everybody knows the movie, I think, from Joanne Harris, the girl Juliette Binoche who goes to France and she starts with a little shop on chocolat. It's a little bit your story. I think it's also a romantic idea when I talk about inspiration for women or girls in the world to start with their own shop or web shop. And
it's definitely a dream.
Yes.
It always has been my dream, and it's a lot of people's dream, and a lot of people come to me and they say, even if they're not really so much into cakes, but they say, oh my god, you must have the most amazing job, and you know, but it also, there's a certain reality to it. It is beautiful to be outside, but if you're making a large cake, I think, let's just say you work a week on it, 5 days, I think 4 days out of the 5 are the hard work, the baking, the icing, the physical hard work and relatively messy work.
Yeah.
The beautiful work is probably only 20% out of it. So, you know, you just need to, my suggestion is actually, if you have this dream, try to get a bit of real experience as an internship or work experience, just because you may find it's not what you expected it to be.
Yeah. I also think, we talked about it earlier, that the combination of cakes and flowers can also be like a therapy.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's because when you decorate cakes or make decorations, you have to be so focused. You really get into your zone and you block everything around you out pretty much.
Yeah.
And so if you have other worries, stresses in your life, it's something you forget about for this period of time. And through the years I've had a lot of people who had very busy lives or even had some kind of depression or work-related burnouts and so on. They've turned to cake decorating for therapy, really. They've just found this is something that makes them happy. And it just gives you a really positive feeling. The occasion to make a cake is always a happy one, usually.
Yeah.
You get positive feedback. I mean, even if the cake might not be perfect, you can't tell, nobody would ever not be happy about having made a cake for them, you know. Yeah. It's just a positive thing all around.
Have you received mails or letters from people who said your books really changed my life?
I had one lady in particular, actually. She came two people actually. One came to the Academy from America and she wrote me a large letter and she said she suffered from severe depression and I think she was almost suicidal, but she discovered Pretty Party Cakes in America, bought the book, and she said, I started making cakes and it has helped cure me. I just feel I've got something to feel happy about now.
Yeah.
And something that given me some kind of sense or purpose and something that fulfills me. That was quite moving, you know, because when you write books, yes, you do what you like, your passion is, but you don't think that actually it would affect other people so much. And one lady came to me very sadly. She was terminally ill with cancer, and one of her last wishes was to come to the Academy and take a course in cake decorating. And you know, it just makes you realize how meaningful something so simple is to people.
Yeah, it's very touching. Yeah.
Very, very difficult. I mean, I'm an emotional person. Very hard to take sometimes, and makes you feel very responsible, actually.
Yeah, but there are nice stories, but I think in general people are happy, you know, to see your books, to visit your shop, to go to your website.
I think the books are, for me, I mean, a cake always gets eaten at the end, so it's and that's a bit of a shame it's gone after the party, but a book will stay, and to me the books it's something that I feel most passionate about, and that's why I put so much work into them, and I really hope it shows. I try not to hold back anything. I'm trying to give away as many recipes and techniques as I can.
Yes. And
sometimes I have to really fight with my publisher and say, no, you have to put that picture in because otherwise people will not know how to make it properly. And,
Well, in the past I've made a book on ice with an Italian ice maker, but he didn't want to give his recipes. So it was very general. And you were very open, you know. You show a lot of material. The book is very much step by step, and also what you need, where you can get it. How to do it?
Well, the thing is, I also find as an author, for example, Amazon is such a powerful selling tool, or also can be very damaging if you get bad reviews or something not working. I find it personally very disappointing disappointing, but also very damaging for your reputation. And I remember in England a few very famous cake books or other cookbooks being published, and lots of complaints came in about recipes not adding up and so on, and I just said, well, that's not what I want to happen for my books. So I'm not saying, I mean, you know, every now and then a little mistake slipped in and we've corrected it afterwards, but I just felt, you know, it takes so much more than trying to copy me than just copying the recipe. There's so much more work into it.
Exactly.
Try to be my guest, try it, you know. It's very, you know, and also competition is a healthy thing, I've learned. If you don't have any competitors, I almost feel there's nothing to strive for. It always helped me to have somebody else to aspire to, because it just made me want to get better at with what I do.
Is there someone who would like to ask a question to Peggy?
I have a lot later on.
You have a lot later on.
So I keep it.
Okay, you keep it. No, nobody? No questions?
You come from Germany.
Yeah.
Is it, at your design, is there something typical that you know that's typical for German people to do it that way?
Well, the thing is, it probably has changed now, but the typical German wedding cake was marzipan-covered cake with marzipan roses, quite simple. And also the tiers were quite separated. Are you asking because you're trying to target the German customer base, or
no.
is it just of interest?
No, I can imagine that you use something from the past, or maybe from your mother. She learned you, and nobody knows. In your designs, there are maybe some German accents, or
I don't know. In terms of design, I think more with flavors. I do bring a lot of flavors into my cupcake and wedding cake flavors. For example, the Black Forest I turned into a cupcake recipe, and just some, you know, in terms of Christmas spices, those kind of things I use a lot. In terms of design, I do find inspiration in a lot of, I like reading sort of interior magazines and crafts magazines, and I tend to buy the German ones a lot because I feel in terms of colors, in particular Easter colors and flowers, for Easter we use a lot of, you know, very bright, colorful lilacs, yellows, oranges, and I think that does affect and influence my color scheme a lot. So the happy sort of fresh colors that we use over there.
Shall we start now?
There's another question, sorry.
I'm very curious, what's your favorite cake to make?
Changes all the time. Do you mean in terms of flavor or design?
Both, and on the moment, what's on the moment your favorite?
We're actually at the moment developing a range of Art Deco gold, something sort of grand. I'm actually collaborating with a London venue, and we're trying to do something very glamorous and grand for them. So I think when I think about wedding cakes, that's where we're going at the moment. But otherwise, anything with pipe work and sugar flowers, lace, those kind of things I really enjoy.
I have another question. You are an inspiration to a lot of people, your work and your life story. But do you have people who inspire you, chefs or?
Well, I always got very much inspired by. I always look a lot to America, and for example, it's probably not a secret. I really do admire the style and what Martha Stewart has achieved in America. But I don't want to be the English Martha Stewart. There are a lot of people who come up and say, "Well, I want to be the English Martha Stewart," and I feel, you know, be you. But there are a lot of women who I feel have created a certain style. Donna Hay in Australia, I think, has a lovely style in her food styling and cooking, photography. And in terms of cake designers, I love Wendy Cromer from America. Faye Cahill in Australia is amazing. Robin Israel, there are quite a few that I really admire.
What makes you different is the colors, I think. It's very stylish what you do, also your cake. Very English. It was interesting yesterday, in all these different countries, we ate cake in a different way. In Germany, you told a little bit about it. In the Netherlands, we eat just one slice, and we get it on a plate, and we eat it. But in Germany,
you have like a buffet almost,
yes.
So you have lots of cakes on a table, and people would go there with a cake size and take a piece. So even if you, let's say you see this cake there, they would go to the cake and cut from it and take it.
Yeah.
And in England, the bride and groom would do one cut, and then somebody would take the cake to the kitchen and they cut it into small slices, and then they serve it on trays. So, and I think the other significant difference is the